Look, Mom, she looks like a bald alien. Why don't you buy a decent wig if you're going out in public scaring people like that? The mocking voice echoed through the entire coffee shop, followed by cruel laughter. Ethan, a 12-year-old boy dressed in designer clothes, held his phone pointing directly at a woman sitting alone at a corner table. She was completely bald, and her hands trembled around a coffee cup she never managed to drink from. Ethan, put that phone away right now. His mother's voice was weak, almost a whisper, more concerned about the stares from other customers than actually stopping her son. Diana, the woman at the table, felt tears beginning to well up in her eyes. She tried to stand up, but her legs seemed unresponsive. What's wrong? I'm just making content for my followers. They love this kind of stuff. Look how she's shaking. This is too funny. Every word was like a knife. Diana finally managed to stand up, leaving money on the table with trembling hands. As she left the coffee shop with what dignity she had left, she could hear Ethan still laughing, editing the video on his phone, probably adding mocking emojis before uploading it to his social media. But this Saturday afternoon wasn't random. Ethan had grown up in a mansion in the most exclusive hills of the city, where everything he wanted appeared with just a request. His father was a real estate mogul, his mother a former model obsessed with appearances. From a young age, Ethan learned that money and image were everything. People without visible success simply didn't matter. That afternoon, they had gone to that specific coffee shop because Ethan wanted an expensive cake only sold there. While waiting for their order, he had seen Diana walk in, noticed her bald head, and his cruel mind had seen a perfect opportunity to get views and likes. His parents, sitting 2 tables away, looked but did nothing significant to stop him. After all, what did a stranger matter compared to keeping their son happy? What Ethan didn't know as he uploaded that video with the title, "Weird Woman at Coffee Shop, You Won't Believe This," was that he had just unleashed a storm that would change his life forever. And what he definitely didn't know was who Diana really was. The video exploded, but not in the way Ethan expected. Within 24 hours, it had 3 million views. But the comments weren't supportive. They were absolutely furious. Thousands of people shared the video with devastating messages about Ethan's cruelty. Cancer patient groups organized to report the content. Local news picked up the story. In less than 2 days, Ethan went from being a minor influencer to being the most hated kid on the internet. Ethan Alexander Morrison, do you have any idea what damage you've caused to this family's reputation? His father paced back and forth across the living room, not worried about the feelings of the woman in the video, but about the angry calls from his business partners. Ethan's mother cried on the couch, but her tears were from social embarrassment, not empathy. But I didn't do anything wrong. It was just a joke. A joke that's costing your father 3 major contracts. Tomorrow you'll record an apology video. We'll post it on all your channels. The apology video was exactly what anyone could expect. Empty words read from a script written by the family lawyer, eyes looking at the teleprompter instead of the camera. Zero genuine emotion. The internet didn't buy it for a second. Ethan's private school, worried about their own image, suspended him for 2 weeks. But that wasn't all. The principal called his parents with a condition for Ethan to return. He had to complete 100 hours of community service at a cancer patient support center. And not just any center, specifically the Valley Hope Center, the only place that had agreed to take him after 5 others rejected the proposal. This is ridiculous. Why do I have to waste my time with sick people? It wasn't that big of a deal. Because we have no choice, Ethan. Either you do this or you get permanently expelled, and that would really ruin our family name. A week later, Ethan arrived at the Hope Center with a bitter face, dragging his feet, headphones on, as if he could block out the world around him. The building was modest, painted in warm colors, with small but well-maintained gardens. Nothing like the elegant places he frequented. The coordinator, an older woman named Patricia, showed him his responsibilities, helping at reception, organizing donations, serving coffee to patients who came for their group therapy sessions. Simple but constant work. Ethan sighed dramatically at each instruction. And then, as Patricia finished explaining the rules, a door opened at the end of the hallway. A familiar figure appeared, carrying a box of donated books. Diana, the same woman from the coffee shop. Their eyes met for a second that felt eternal. But what happened next left Ethan completely baffled. Diana didn't scream. She didn't point at him with rage. She didn't demand that he be removed from the building. Instead, she simply set the box on the counter and offered him a small, tired smile before continuing with her work. It was as if the coffee shop incident had never happened. Ethan didn't know how to process this. He had mentally prepared himself for confrontation, for accusations, maybe even to be kicked out. But this quiet kindness was unsettling. During the first few days, Ethan kept his distance, completing his tasks with minimal interaction. But the center was small, and it was impossible not to see what was happening around him. He met Robert, a 40-year-old man who had lost his business and savings paying for treatments. Camilla, a 16-year-old teenager who had to leave school when cancer appeared. George, a grandfather who sold popsicles on the street to pay for his wife's medicine. Each story was a blow to the privileged bubble Ethan had lived in his entire life. Diana was there 3 times a week, always volunteering, always helping other patients complete paperwork, find resources, or simply feel heard. Ethan watched her from afar, guilt beginning to grow like a stone in his stomach. One afternoon, while Ethan was organizing donations in the storage room, Diana came in looking for blankets to distribute. They were alone in the small space filled with boxes. "You can talk to me, you know. I don't bite." Her voice was soft, with no trace of resentment. Ethan swallowed hard, his hand stopping over a box of donated toys. I'm really sorry about what happened at the coffee shop. I know my video apology was fake. My parents forced me to do it. I know, I saw it, but I appreciate you telling me directly now." There was an uncomfortable silence. Ethan wanted to ask her so many things. Why was she bald? How long had she been sick? Why didn't she hate him? But the words stuck in his throat. "My name is Diana, by the way. Since we'll be working together for a while, we might as well get to know each other." "Ethan, but I guess you already knew that." "Yes, you're quite famous on the internet now, though not for the reasons you expected." She didn't say it with cruelty, just as a fact, and that somehow hurt more. The weeks passed. Ethan started arriving on time, then early. He began asking questions about the patients, remembering their names, actually listening to their stories. Diana noticed the changes but didn't comment on them. She simply continued treating him with that unsettling kindness. One day while sharing coffee during a break, Ethan finally gathered the courage to ask, "Why do you volunteer here? I mean, you're also going through treatment, right?" Diana took a slow sip of her coffee before answering. "I finished my treatment 6 months ago. I'm in remission now. But yes, that's why I lost my hair. And yes, that's why I'm here." When you're at your lowest point, when you've lost almost everything, you realize who really matters in your life. And you also discover who abandons you when you need them most. Something in her tone made Ethan pay closer attention. There was a deeper story there, something personal and painful. "Did your family support you?" Diana looked down at her cup, and for the first time since Ethan had known her, he saw something break in her serene expression. "That's a complicated story, Ethan. One you should probably hear. But first, I need to ask you something. Your mother's maiden name? Is it Morrison?" Ethan's heart stopped. How did she know that? "My maiden name was also Morrison. Your mother, Catherine Morrison, is my twin sister." The storage room seemed to tilt. Ethan had to sit on a box because his legs stopped supporting him. Diana continued speaking, her voice now loaded with years of contained pain. 6 years ago, when I was diagnosed, I lost everything quickly. My husband left me 3 months after the diagnosis. He couldn't handle the idea of a sick wife. My marketing job ended because treatments left me too weak. Savings evaporated, paying for medications that insurance didn't fully cover. I was left with nothing. Ethan listened paralyzed, his mind connecting dots he didn't want to see. "I called my sister, your mother. I begged her for help, not much, just enough to not lose my apartment. Catherine came to see me once. Just once. She saw my bald head, my weak body, the modest apartment where I lived. And you know what she told me?" Tears began rolling down Diana's cheeks. "She told me she couldn't associate the Morrison name with failure and illness, that her husband, your father, was building an empire, and they couldn't afford to have connections with situations like that. She offered me $5,000 as if that would solve years of treatment, and asked me to never contact the family again, to pretend we didn't exist as sisters. No, that can't be true. But even as he denied it, Ethan knew in his heart it made perfect sense. His parents' values, their obsession with image, their coldness toward anyone they considered beneath them. Of course they had done this. I survived thanks to this center. Patricia found me sleeping in a shelter and brought me here. They connected me with assistance programs, with doctors who worked for reduced fees. They saved my life when my own blood turned their back on me. Diana pulled out her phone and showed him an old photo. Two identical twin girls, smiling on a swing. It was impossible to tell which was which. That was your mother before money and status changed her. We were inseparable. And now I'm a stranger. A stranger her son humiliated in a coffee shop without knowing he was mocking his own aunt. Ethan felt like he was going to throw up. All this time, his whole life he'd had an aunt, real family, and his parents had erased her as if she'd never existed. And he had inherited that cruelty without even knowing it. Diana, I don't know what to say. If I had known, would you have acted differently? Before coming here, before meeting these people, would you really have been kinder just because she was family? The question hit like a hammer. Ethan had no answer because the truth was horrible. Probably not. He had been raised to see people without visible success as inferior, whether they were family or not. I need to go home. I need to talk to my parents. Ethan, wait! But he was already running toward the exit, tears of rage and shame blinding him as he drove back to the family mansion. Everything he thought he knew about his family, about himself, had just exploded into 1,000 pieces. Ethan burst into the house like a hurricane, finding his parents in the dining room, finishing an elegant dinner with glasses of expensive wine. Why didn't you ever tell me I had an aunt? Why didn't you ever talk to me about Diana? His mother's fork fell loudly onto the porcelain plate. His father tensed visibly. How did you find out about that? She's a volunteer at the center. The woman from the coffee shop is your sister, Mom, and you let me humiliate her without telling me anything. Catherine Morrison turned pale but quickly recovered her cold composure. Ethan, that's ancient history. Diana made her choices, we made ours. Her choices? She didn't choose to have cancer. She begged you for help and you abandoned her. His father stood up, his voice taking that authoritative tone he used in negotiations. Enough. You don't understand how the real world works. Building an empire requires sacrifices. We couldn't afford to be dragged down by her situation. We had to protect our future, your future. Protect what? Your fake reputation? Your dirty money? You left your own sister to die. She didn't die, clearly, his mother responded coldly. She survived. And frankly, the fact that she now works at that center only confirms we made the right decision. Look at her, working with charity, living in mediocrity. That's not the kind of life we want for you. Something broke inside Ethan at that moment. He saw his parents for the first time without the filters of childish admiration. He saw their emptiness, their cruelty disguised as pragmatism, their complete lack of real humanity. You taught me to be exactly like you. You raised me to believe people are only worth their bank account. And you almost destroyed me by turning me into a monster like you. Ethan, you're being dramatic. No, for the first time in my life, I'm seeing clearly. Diana lost everything, and she's still happier, kinder, more human than any of you, than any of us. The following days were the hardest of Ethan's life. He returned to the center with a real apology for Diana, one that came from a genuine place of regret. She hugged him and cried, not from sadness, but from relief seeing that the cycle of cruelty could be broken. Ethan began spending more time at the center, not out of obligation, but because he wanted to be there. He listened to more stories, helped at more events, began understanding what community and mutual support really meant. One evening, while eating takeout in Diana's small apartment, she showed him photo albums from when she and his mother were children. Stories of a family that was once loving before money and ambition corrupted everything. Do you think I can ever fix this? Make things better? Diana took his hand. You're already doing it, Ethan. Every day you choose to be better than what they taught you, you're fixing it. 3 months later, Ethan posted a new video, but this one was different from anything he'd shared before. It started with him sitting at the Hope Center. No filters, no elaborate editing, just raw honesty. He told the whole story, his initial cruelty, the viral video, the mandatory community service. And then he revealed the truth about Diana, about how she was his aunt, about how his own parents had abandoned her in her darkest moment. He exposed his family's hypocrisy without reservation. I grew up thinking success was measured in money and status. My parents taught me that people without those things didn't matter, and I became someone cruel, someone who caused real pain to real people just for entertainment. But Diana, the woman I publicly humiliated, turned out to be the person with the most true wealth I've ever known. And it's not even her money or position, it's her heart. The video showed clips of Diana working at the center, helping other patients, smiling despite everything she'd lost. It showed the other volunteers and patients, their stories of resilience. I'm using this platform one last time as the old Ethan to ask you for something. The Valley Hope Center needs funding. They need equipment, medications, resources to help people the system left behind. I'm leaving the donation link in the description. Everything I earn from this video will also go directly to them. He paused, tears evident in his eyes. And to Diana, if you're watching this, thank you for showing me what it really means to be strong. Thank you for forgiving me when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for being the family you chose to be, even when we didn't choose you. I love you, Aunt Diana, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of your forgiveness. The video went viral again, but this time with millions of supportive comments. Donations flooded the center's page. Celebrities shared the story. Within 2 weeks, the Hope Center had raised enough money to operate for 3 full years. Ethan's parents disinherited him. They kicked him out of the house with only what he could carry in a backpack. But Diana welcomed him into her small apartment without hesitation. Ethan got a part-time job at a coffee shop, the same cafe where it all began. He started attending public school, made new friends who valued him for who he was, not the last name he carried. A year later, Diana organized a small celebration dinner. She had reached 2 years in complete remission. Ethan had been accepted to a public university with a scholarship for his community work. Patricia, Robert, Camilla, George, and dozens of other people from the center filled the modest apartment with laughter and food. As Ethan looked around, seeing these people who had become his true family, he remembered the words Diana had told him months ago. True wealth isn't in what you have, but in who lifts you up when you fall. His biological mother never apologized, never contacted Diana again. But Ethan had found something more valuable than his family's money. He had found his humanity. And in that small apartment filled with genuine love, surrounded by people who had lost everything material, but gained everything that mattered, Ethan finally understood what it meant to be truly rich. Diana put her arm around his shoulders. "I'm proud of you, nephew." And in those simple words, Ethan found the redemption he'd been searching